All right, thank you for staying with Citizen TV. We're talking about police reforms. Is it a lost cause? Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Where do we start going forward? That's a conversation. My guests are still with me. Eric Okeyo is here. He's the former chairperson, Kenya Security Industry Association, and former vice chair, Security Regulatory Authority. Thank you for making time. Willis Otieno is here. He's a lawyer and also deputy party leader for Safina. Thank you for making time. Gloria Kimani is a council member, LSK. Thank you for making time. And Charles Owino, former police spokesperson and also the head of the National Communications Center. Thank you for making time. Charles, before we took the break, you're talking about the source of conflict between the police and the public, and you said it's politics. Is that an admission that the National Police Service, an independent institution, is swayed by politics?
No. They are not swayed by politics. You know, police has a responsibility to protect life and property and protect everyone. You know, our discussion here, especially on police reforms, need not to be narrowed to demonstrations, picketings in the city. We need to look at the role of police on a day-to-day basis. When we were on break, I was telling them that currently, as we speak, it is the police officers who are deployed along the borders. The military, you cannot deploy military in the border, because if you deploy military in the actual border, it's like you are calling for war with your other countries. So they sit at a distance that is not actually at the border. The person who is at the border with Mwananchi is the policeman. And you know how many policemen we have lost in Lamu, we have lost in those areas of Garissa and so on. Along the border, Pokot, it is cattle rustling and the rest. And policemen are working with Wananchi every day, even patrols in this city at night. So we need not to run away from the fact that police are doing much more work. There are murders taking place, there are forensics, there is money we are losing in banks. We have cybercrime officers working every day. People are working every day. And therefore, we need to look at the police in its holistic nature. Let us not narrow police to these demonstrations in Nairobi. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm saying the source of conflict, what is giving police a very bad image, are majorly when we are managing issues of freedom to demonstrate, to picket. That is where you find a lot of conflict. And currently, apart from the unfortunate death of Ojwang, which we have also had before, we have had situations where people have died in custody. And we have served situations where police officers have been charged. What caused the biggest issue was that the complainant in this matter was the DIG. And I don't think even the DIG particularly complained against Ojwang. The DIG complained against the publications that were defaming him. And in the process of investigations, because again, he did not complain. The DIG runs, okay, don't smile. You are always with us at Office of the President for many years. I know your friend, the PS well, whom you used to visit every day. So what I'm saying is, okay, knows so much about police. Yeah. He's a beneficiary.
And he's saying that most of these reforms is just
he's part of us. He knows a lot. He's taking privileged information. So what I'm saying is that the police have a bigger role to play. And Jalego, what I want you to agree with me, that this is our country. And if our major source of conflict are things to do with picketing, demonstrations, and so on, then we need to think as a team that what is the best way to manage these processes? What is the best way? Because even on us as civilians, we need to have some level of discipline and say this is what we want. You know, you must ask yourself, do we want anarchy or we want agitation? You talked about agitation. When you are agitating, because we've seen situations like even we were talking about goons. There's the other day when I saw vehicles burnt, and somebody even said those vehicles burnt were OP vehicles. One of the vehicles belonged to a police corporal. A vehicle I know he bought 5-6 years ago using his loan. The vehicle was burnt by goons, demonstrators. I don't think that day these goons we are talking about were there. And I have no reason to protect goons or people carrying, how do we call them? I saw them with sticks, big rungus in town. And what we are promoting now is people starting to have gangs in the city, where you find that the opposition are promoting unlawful demonstrations. I know he will say they are lawful, and he's a lawyer, and I know he's campaigning. He wants to be deputy president, and therefore the sitting government must be destroyed. What are you going to, which country are you going to run when you become a deputy president and we have burnt it? Where are you going to get money to construct Kenya? So we are saying we cannot support what is wrong. If policemen are wrong, the policemen must be brought to book for being wrong. But most importantly, we must look at the reform in its generality.
Okay.
And if it is demonstrations, we must be civil in carrying out. I want a situation, and I want you this time to lead. I don't know when you are carrying the next demonstration. I want you to lead that demonstration this time.
Okay.
And I want him to notify the police, and I want him to give the police the routes, and I want the police to escort him so that we can have a civil demonstration.
Okay.
Don't let these goons go alone.
All right. Okay, you're talking about reforms.
Can I respond?
Yeah, I'll give you a response.
I want you to lead this demonstration.
You'll get a chance, Willis. Let's
and I want you to do it in a civil way.
Okay, you talked about mental stability and welfare. So here we are now. These processes have started, we've tried them, they're still not working. So what more do we need to do from this point on?
Trevor, but indulge me a second to respond to Charles.
Sure, go ahead.
That when we are here, let's also not trivialize issues. We are discussing a very serious issue. Police reforms, is it failed, is it existing? And government officers belong to the public. When we visit them, we do so knowing we support them with our taxes. And, you know, I have to respond to him on one, then I go to your question. Because he has even brought the issue of Ojwang. He's saying that, look, here is Ojwang, who the complainant is the DIG, who did not write. You know, there was a press conference. There was appearance in the National Assembly and in the Senate by the IG and the DCI director, and they said the letter by Eliud Kipkoech Lagat, DIG, was against these two people. And that is what necessitated the DCI to ask serious crimes to send the people to Homa Bay. So for me, any other person going to DCI to complain that someone has written on X about him would not receive the attention that Lagat got. And that if you sit in office as a DIG and you complain to your counterpart of the same level as DCI director, and same day people are dispatched to Homa Bay, a person is picked, and instead of his parents bringing a title deed to secure his release, they procure a death certificate, is enough reason to get you out of office. And that's why some of us are saying the National Police Service Act creates no opportunity called stepping aside. You're either interdicted or you resign. There are only two ways about it. So, but coming back to your question with me, what is the solution? When we work closely with the Police Reforms Working Group and we identified welfare and emotional stability as need, Willis just told you that across police, there perhaps exists just one psychiatric specialist. Sometimes the understanding of need for counseling is that you need a pastor. Trevor, even pastors need counseling and psychosocial support for stability because of the plethora of economic issues people are going through today. So we did say in our time that let us remunerate them well, let us give them very good working conditions, even for residents. Those are the times you'd see police living in uni-huts, sharing rooms where you have one who is single, sharing a room with one who is married, and the one who is single is being visited by a potential spouse, and in the process affects the mental stability of children who are also growing up in this house. So the issues we had narrowed down that were critical was housing as welfare and remuneration. Because the money being drawn from National Treasury in the name of police reforms is enough to contemplate paying the police officers very well. You remember the agitation by the Private Security Regulatory Authority that security guards be paid 30,000. So at that point, someone ought to have said, okay, this is our saga, our state corporation, asking that guards be paid 30,000. And they just use rungus. What about police? At that point, a conversation needed to have a reason to talk about police. For me, as a person familiar with their operations, I still hold the view that a lot of this rage and indiscipline on them can be handled psychosocially and by looking at their remuneration and welfare, and even exposing them to help by therapists and psychologists. Remember what Willis, I'm associating with Willis. But as it is, and then politicians who are using them, whether those politicians support government or are opposed to government, must be called out. Because assuming you did not deploy these goons and the police and just allowed the demos to go on, I am tempted to think it would not have gotten as ugly as it got to. Yeah.
What about recruitment and training? Most people have talked about
because
starting at that granular point.
Yes, I agree with that, because you see, we only changed adjectives, removed the word force and put service, but the mindset remained. So this mindset ought to be addressed at the... Charles will not convince us that there has been any review on the police curriculum of the 9 months they go to Kiganjo. Times have evolved. Today, even criminals or people, young people come from universities, they know, they are tech savvy. The policeman still goes there. Today, you will still be told if you have a person with C, they can't go to police because police are looking for D. And I can say that looking in the eye of the public, and that we can also make police an equal opportunity employer. And when you ask them, this child's included, he will tell you, oh, you know, if we get them with A, B, C, then in a minute, they advance their education, they start looking for jobs. What is difficult in making police an equal opportunity employer using the taxes Kenyans pay? It is possible. And then do other jurisdictions survey and say, how is it that in other jurisdictions, police are civil? And finally, Willis here talked of police subjecting themselves to civilian authority. Did you even know that already in the Constitution there exists something called County Policing Authority? It's not a board. County Policing Authority. The County Policing Authority is established by an act of parliament. It sets out its leadership. It will be chaired by the county governor. It would have police in it. Some people just fear operationalizing it. If you operationalized it, you would go to the model that Willis was talking about, where then this committee, once it devolves itself up to the station at the SEC level and the OCS level, they're able to work closely, see what hazards are in the police cells, see whether it is possible to keep one person in a cell alone, whether the walls are smooth or they are available for a person to hit his head on it in the name of wanting to go home, for example. So I would say one other thing for MPs to consider is to demand, and even Kenyans can now demand, because MPs did their bit. It is the government that is not operationalizing the County Policing Authority, which then would go down all the way.
Okay. Willis, as you give your recommendations, when you look at what happened even in Parliament during the inquiry into the death of Albert Ojwang, there were statements that were outright lies. And the police officers eventually said that this was incorrect, like the statement of him hitting his head against the wall, and then autopsy results show that he was actually strangled and there was torture involved. Who bears the greatest responsibility at that point?
You know, in all this saga of Albert Ojwang, the person who bears the greatest responsibility is somebody called Eliud Lagat, DIG. He was the complainant, and I'm persuaded to believe that even the signal to go and collect Ojwang from Omabay probably didn't even come from Amin. DIG Lagat called them directly. Because I saw the pictures from Standard Media Group where he had deployed the GSU to that place. I don't think the GSU commandant. So we had a complainant here who was not your ordinary complainant. He went outside and was now superimposing himself on the entire system to make sure that he gets Albert Ojwang. So I will give Amin and Kanja the benefit of doubt at this particular point. that maybe that same system that was tampering with the CCTV equally fed them with false information. But I will expect them, going forward, to be candid enough, because they now have time to clean and to find out if indeed what they were releasing to the public was accurate. They now owe us a further duty. Amen, for example, should tell us, is he the one who deployed these officers to go to Homa Bay? And can he show us and explain the handing over of Albert Ojwang by his officers to OCS Central? That will help us in terms of cleaning the system. But I must go and say this also. When we say that the police are complicit, in fact, police are allowing themselves to be used by legacy politicians to undermine our constitution. Because when a legacy politician publicly says, on Tuesday, tutakuta Mtanipata town, threats are issued to the public. Not a single investigation done by the police. They're the investigating agency. They don't investigate that one. Attacks are done against civilians. They're not investigating. In fact, the police are using their vehicles as cover to the goons to invade town and attack other civilians. Not a single investigation. And yet, we have Albert Ojwang lying in a cold morgue today for purportedly posting something on, retweeting something on X. When somebody is walking armed to attack and to kill civilians, the police turn a blind eye. They don't see it. Threats are issued to members of the public. And for what? My brother here is telling me that we should not allow anarchy, we should allow not demonstrate every day, agitate every day. Our Article 37 of the Constitution, I can demonstrate every single day of my entire life. And I can demonstrate on anything. That is my right. And the police led by Owino should not try to gag us or tell us how to exercise and enjoy that right. Just like they have their right not to demonstrate, I have my right. Another Kenyan has his right to demonstrate. And he's challenged me to do the next demonstration. I'll say this. The issues for which the Kenyan people are demonstrating against are led by all Kenyans. I am not superimposing myself as their leader. I attend all demonstrations in this country. And for your information, go online. Here I am on the streets on the 17th. No, the latest, no, I'm talking of the latest. I'm on the streets on the 17th demonstrating. And I'm not going there as a leader. Yeah. I'm going there as a Kenyan enjoying my Article 37 right to demonstrate and to picket.
Peaceably.
So it should not be that when I'm out there demonstrating, I don't want to see Owino and his cohorts come with goons carrying batons to beat me up and other fellow demonstrators. When Owino and his cohorts are deployed on the streets, what I expect of them is to have first aid equipment in case somebody faints out of fatigue. I expect of them water to help give us water. I expect of them to help marshal us. If the site of the demonstration is Parliament, I expect the police to walk with us to Parliament, up to that epicenter, to demonstrate and to just make sure that we fully enjoy our Article 37 rights. But when the police turn themselves to become a superintendent of how to exercise the right, and they are given guns, ask yourself, when a citizen has said, I'm going to demonstrate, the response from the police when they are notified is to give guns to officers and deploy them. What are you sending? What message are you telling that policeman you've given a gun? Okay. So Baraza, for example, was given that shotgun with bullets. What was he being told indirectly? The same police system had told him, we have given you a gun, go and use it to shoot, to kill. If it was about protecting property or controlling the manner in which the demonstration are done, Baraza should have been given a baton, bottles of water, first aid kits, bandage, to assist anybody, give him glucose, to give demonstrators. But the police system gave him guns to go out to the streets. The final thing I want to say is this. As we speak here today, DIG Lagat has not been arrested pending investigations. We saw OCS Talat yesterday detained under custodial orders by the court for 15 days. Why is there differential treatment being accorded to this particular one?
It's now been some
when other Kenyans, in ordinary circumstances like this, have always been, the police are always the first to run to court.
Okay.
That we want to be allowed to detain him for 30 days. Why are they applying differential treatment to Lagat? Lagat should also be in custody, pending investigations.
All right. Gloria, from the LSK perspective, and so you had a press conference yesterday, what are the next steps from your side? We saw there was a promise to head to ICC, and you also said that you've collected enough evidence to show that the police are working in cahoots with the goons. So what is the next step from there?
First, I'd like to say the overall performance of the police is not to be desired. I do appreciate the sentiments of Charles and him saying the police actually do a lot in safeguarding us and maintaining law and order. That I do agree. But the general performance, even as a country, we feel that they are below average. And that is because they are these individuals who have come out. And what is happening in the country right now, it's the rot that has been in the system. And now it's oozing and we are seeing. Remember, there were 20, we had from January now till June, there are 20 people who had been killed in police cells. Yes. Yeah. And none has taken accountability for that. We didn't hear that the OCS was interdicted, the police who are there, and we haven't gotten information around that. So when you look at these issues, you're seeing this is just one case of Ojwang, and now we are seeing of Kariuki. But we are not looking at all other things. And this is why we are saying their performance is really, really lacking, and someone has to be held accountable for it. The Law Society, in this instance, we got orders from the court last year. And it was from the demonstrations that happened last year, where we saw police excesses and police coming ununiformed and unmasked. We got orders from the court saying that when police officers are coming to the streets, especially in protecting demonstrators, they have to be uniformed. They cannot be masked. And those are the things we are looking at. That's what we saw yesterday. And so the Law Society will be moving the court for contempt of court. And they will be actually putting the IG on the spot, saying this was the directive of the court. But right now we are seeing a total different thing, and it's not being followed. Yeah. And then the worst part is now, because the police are not following orders, you're seeing now civilians now trying to execute those orders. Whether it's right or not, it's up for debate. But you're seeing civilians pulling the masks of the police, which should have not been the case if they actually followed the law. Yeah.
Charles, do you believe that the police have gone against the law when they wear masks and are not uniformed? In as much as they
are not?
They don't wear uniforms, which is what expressly a court of law said that anytime they are going into a demonstration, they should not have masks, they should have uniforms, they should have their identity and their badges. But we've seen that they are not doing it.
Oh, so this, I saw some policemen hitting somebody with the gentleman whom they hit, and they have been arrested. The two police officers, they were in civilian.
They were in uniform, but they were masked.
Oh, they had masks. Yeah. It's okay, but what is wrong with having a mask?
The law, the court has said they should not have.
Oh, they should not have masks. Yes. I don't know. But anyway, let me go back to...
Just as on the court.
Just a minute. I'll come to that. Okay. What I'm saying is we have a very good topic this morning, and the topic is police reforms. How do we agitate? How do we reform the police? And I'm impressed with Okeyo's last sentiments because he has restricted himself on how best we can reform the police. He's talked about recruitment, he's talked about many things. Having been an insider, there are a number of issues, controversies that we have had in the police reform agenda. And that is why when there'll be a review on the Constitution, and God gives us life, a number of us will have to attend to give our views on a number of issues. One of them is, if you look at the Constitution, you find that the Constitution states clearly that the IG shall not take instructions from any other person on matters, police operations, police promotions, transfers, all that, save on matters of policy in writing by the Cabinet Secretary. But then, if you come now to the Police Service Commission Act and the Police Service Act, you find that there's a commission which undertakes matters human capital.
Yes.
And you remember, there was a lot of wars and pull and push between the first Inspector General and the first chairman of the Police Service Commission.
Yes.
Because he felt he has powers. And you remember, the first Inspector General, there was even an advertisement for that position.
Yes.
And then it brought a lot of heat.
As is required.
And not really. If you go to the Constitution again, that is why I'm saying the law is contradicting itself. If you again go to the Constitution, it says the President shall appoint an Inspector General. I don't know that you are
in consultation with the Commission.
No. It just says shall. There is no consultation. The consultation now comes in the Act. So you start. So you see some of these things, and then you look at the Police Service Commission. Out of 9, 5 are policemen. The IG, the 2 DIGs, and 2 retired police officers.
Yes.
Only 4 are civilians.
Yes. So policemen are majority.
And then if you look at the police discipline, it's such that if you are below the IG, you can't contradict him. You cannot even go against, even in a closed door meeting. If you try to give an opinion and maybe he does not like it, you can be sure that is the end of you because of discipline structures and so on. So a lot still need to be very clear in law on how we need to move forward in managing the police service. Okeyo talked about grades. Okeyo, the issue of grades is not that police has never embraced educated people. Our first commissioner, Hinga, left school in 1954 in Alliance High School with a Division 1 to proceed to college, but could not because he was identified to join police. Kanyotu joined the police in 1959 from Makerere University, and many other policemen with good levels of education. The only thing, if you go to the military, you find they have clearly divided that they will have cadets, they'll have specialists, and it is a small portion. But the bigger portion, the people to fight, the bigger portion, the larger portion, are not people with those grades we are talking about. So even in the police, what is majorly important, we always talk about, that's why we do psychometric, and you're supposed to do psychometric and also the IQ test, the aptitude test, so that even if you are employing somebody with a Form 4 certificate, even if they have C, then amongst those C, who has better intelligence? Because you need very high IQ for police officers. Why? Because,
Charles, they don't take C, it's D. It's D plus.
No.
You know, I know.
The minimum,
excuse
me, Odoyo. Okay.
No, okay, but it's D.
The minimum, the minimum is D plus. But that is not exactly what the police take. And remember, after the Constitution 2010, when we did the Police Service Act, we recommended, and it was in law, that we take people with a minimum of C plane. It is Parliament that reviewed it. So what I'm saying is that even as we speak today, we have a large pool of educated people. But it is not just the grade. Police work is a social work. Much of the police work, you learn it on duty. Even as an advocate, even as a lawyer, much of your work, you learn. You don't study everything in school. You learn it at work. The education only helps you to understand your work better and to learn better. So much of the work that the policemen do is gained out of experience, not just level of education. And that's why we are saying, even if you go back to our history, we have a few officers who never went to school much. But they were intelligent and they performed well. So what I'm talking about is, let us, all of us, including Willis, think about the welfare of the police, as Okeyo was putting it. Is this job attractive? Is it a noble job? how do we make police service a noble job that attracts the best?
Okay.
But most importantly, Willis, and I'm still coming back to this, and don't run away from it, and look at me on my face. Willis, look at me at the face.
I'm listening.
Yeah,
I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
I'm listening
no,
to you.
we are all from
and I will
Alego.
respond.
And I want to,
appropriately.
and I want to humbly request you. Don't look down. Look at
I'm writing.
No.
I'm writing.
First, I want you to listen to
No, say what you
this
have
is
to
not
say.
complex.
Yeah.
Say,
Really.
it's not complex.
Anytime you talk about Article 37, make sure Article 37 of the Constitution,
Yeah.
make sure it is complete. That every person has a right to picket, to demonstrate peaceably and unarmed. That
And
is number
unarmed,
one.
yes.
Number two, let us embrace public order. Let's assume policemen are rogue, as you put it. Let's assume they are bad people, as you put it.
Yeah.
But the first question, as civilians that want to demonstrate, can we also embrace the requirements of public order? That we notify the police, not ask for permission.
Yeah.
And then let us agree that we shall agree that if it is agitation, we can agree that we are going to do it between this time and this time.
Okay.
And we also agree, if it is procession, we will use this route.
Okay.
So that we see a situation where businessmen in town, we don't offend people who are, because you see, rights have limits. As you enjoy rights and your fundamental rights, you must also, you must not prejudice the rights and freedoms of others.
So Charles, what you said there on
finally,
Article 37,
finally,
you talked, I want you to revisit something you've just talked about, Article 37, and you emphasize on the peaceably and unarmed. But we saw police working side by side with people who are armed.
You see,
they then fail.
You see, that is your opinion.
It's not my opinion. You're the one who brought
Excuse
it up.
me. Now
Article 37 is peaceably and unarmed.
Yes, but I'm
police
saying
were working side by side with people who had rungus.
Excuse me. That is your opinion.
Shouldn't they have arrested them? You've been a police officer.
I agree.
Shouldn't they have arrested the people who had
I agree. But it also depends what numbers do you have as police, and what numbers of these criminals do you also have in the street, and how many casualties are you most likely to get? Because you see, what you guys are doing, I think we should have a trial. We should have a demo in this country. We should have a situation where you are going to notify people that there will be demonstrations, and we don't deploy police. We allow demonstrators to do what they want. Then we see what will happen.
Yes, I just proposed that. I just proposed
and I'm telling you, you will burn this country in one day.
It will be
peaceful.
It won't.
It will be peaceful.
Now, let me know what Okeyo's opinion is.
It won't be peaceful.
You think a demonstration without the police officers, so you think the police officers are the ones agitating
you see,
the
okay. No, just a minute, okay. Just a minute.
But Trevor has asked me a question. Allow me to answer. Yeah, Trevor, what I said and I maintain is this public order, when it was enacted, I don't think it still even exists. But police don't give permission for these demos or protests. Police are merely supposed to be notified that they will occur on this date for this reason. Any moment you see the notification has been given, the organizers intend peace. Every time they have turned ugly, it is because of the response. Every time they have turned ugly, it is because of the response. Even this one of 2 days ago, if the politicians did not mobilize these boys, and let me tell you, it is public that they were mobilized at the petrol station next to Pan-Afric. That's where they were fueling from. You fuel a pillion, the motorcycle, you are paid 2,000. You fuel, you're paid 2,000. And in a minute, they were in town with police driving behind them. Had those young people, the people who had organized the demos, been allowed to just go on their own, and the police had no rider that what if other people infiltrate. You see, this statement of other people infiltrate, these other people who infiltrate are induced by the same policemen. So I repeat, if the demos are left, the protests are left to go as the organizers give them, they will be peaceful.
Okay.
These are the ones who provoke.
I want you to tell me something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was the organizer of the last demonstration? I want you just.
You know me, I've just said organizers.
No, what I'm saying.
I'm not in civil society.
You see, no, the issue is not civil society. Yeah. The issue is, as you notify the police equally, we must know, the police must know, who is the organizer they can contact.
I agree.
In this case,
I agree 100%.
Who are the organizers?
No, who was
the last organizer?
Let him respond.
Don't tackle.
Yes.
You know, there's something serious that...
Be civil. You've been a policeman. We know.
That is messing. It tells you the mindset of the police. It's actually the typical mindset of a policeman.
Absolutely.
Now, all of a sudden, he's turning the purpose of notification to obligations. We must ask ourselves, what was the purpose, what was the intention when the law says you notify the police? It is not for them to turn around and start interrogating you. Who are you? Why are you demonstrating? What for? Where? What is the time? No. The purpose of notification issued to the police is for them
to provide security.
Yes. Plan yourself, organize yourselves as a police unit to protect me. But Charles is coming on TV trying to make it appear that once you notify me, I am now the askari.
No.
Just shut up, please.
No.
I can't shut up. Let me finish.
That's primitive.
I kept quiet. I kept quiet.
That's primitive.
So when he comes on TV and starts saying, who are the organizers? That's the attitude of the police. You take a notification to the OCS of a police station, start telling you, who are you? Who has paid for this?
No.
The purpose of notification is for that OCS
provide security.
Is to provide security.
Only.
To who? For him to know.
To the protesters.
Let me just please allow me to talk. Charles, stop
I'll give you all a chance.
Stop heckling. The purpose is that when that OCS is deploying his units for operations on that day, he is now aware that within my locality, there's a demonstration that is going to take place. As I deploy it, the numbers may be massive. I need to even ask for reinforcement to help me, to help the demonstrators to achieve their objective of Article 37 demonstration.
Yeah.
It is not an opportunity that this policeman turns himself to become a superior and a superintendent of a demonstration.
Trevor, allow me.
It's on that issue. It's on that issue, Charles.
No.
It's on that issue, Charles.
Just allow me to finish. Just allow me to finish.
I'll come to you, Glory.
And I want to say this.
Yeah.
When we say that we have a right to demonstrate, and Charles here says to him as he speaks, you'll think a demonstration is anarchy. That attitude, that mindset, I've been to almost every single demonstration since last year. And on many occasions when the police did not interfere. I was in the CBD when the numbers that were demonstrating had never been seen in the history of the earth here in Kenya. And when the police did not interfere, the demonstrators communicated their anger, their displeasure, and they went home. It is only when the police started using batons, water cannons, and guns that things turned ugly. So you should not sit here and say, we are going to excuse the police, that now they are the ones who have a right to superintend Article 37.
Okay.
Peaceably and armed. Kenyans only carry water,
and
flags, and handkerchiefs.
Okay.
Police come with guns, batons, and
tear
rubber bullets and tear gas.
Yes. And I do agree with what Willis is saying.
Yeah.
And I think we also need an amendment to the Public Order Act, because it says we have to notify the police in 3 days. There are some maybe demonstrations that happen, do not need notification of 3 days. Something happens sporadically and people just come up. It does not have to be organized by people. People just come up and say, no, let's march to the police station and say, this, what happened this time is wrong. So I think we need to look at it in a different way. And you see, in the Police Order Act, it says that you have to notify them, you have to give your details as the organizer, which I agree. Before it was a workable solution. However, post last year, June, they used to, like, when police were notified, these are the demonstrations are going to be held on this day, and this will be the organizers. The organizers now started going missing in this, what we called enforced disappearances. So the public is also looking at it and wondering, if we actually do this, we are going to disappear from what is happening. So I think we also need to look at it in a way, if police have been notified, whether through electronic means, I think that's an enough notice. And it's not for permission. You're just notifying the police that there's going to be a demonstration happening at this time. So just come and offer security.
Okay.
So I think we need to look at those things.
It's quite annoying to me. It's a very high level of provocation. Willis is saying that when you go to notify the police about your intention to picket, to demonstrate, or to assemble, then you don't need to be asked who you are. True. You must, when you are notifying the police, you're notifying the police that you want to have a demonstration or assembly or a procession, and that the police should not ask you who you are. That is number one. Number two, he's saying the police should not ask you what time and when. At the same time, he's saying the police need to plan themselves. How do you plan yourself when you don't know where the demonstration is starting, when you don't know when it is ending, when you don't know the route it is taking? This thing is not that. These things are not done for the sake of it, for activist mind of looking for offices. These things are done for purposes of order, and that is why it is called public order. It is not about me. I was born, I found it here. And we must have order. No matter the agitations we must have order in our country. Business must continue. We have people who have traveled to this country as tourists. We have people who have come to this country to do business. We cannot lock our city. And really, we cannot apologize, I can tell you that, for allowing people to disorganize their country. The police have a duty to protect everyone and every property. And that is why we are saying there must be order. People must notify, we must know the route, and the police must support you. And when a policeman becomes rogue, a policeman must take individual responsibility and must be disciplined and must be dealt with. That must happen. We can also not allow, because, for example, you can never be a policeman forever, even if you're one. And even if you're a policeman, the policemen also are looking for their welfare. Policemen are poorly paid. Policemen still share houses. Okay, what you are talking about, policemen still live in a 3-bedroom house. Somebody is living in the bedroom. Somebody is living in another bedroom. Somebody is in the sitting room. Somebody is 52 years old. He has his daughter in that room, or his son who has come to visit. It's pathetic. Kenyans should look at the best way to make the police noble. But trying to twist a noble cause for your own interest because you want to become CG deputy president. Even if you become deputy president, you cannot be deputy president forever. You will one day have to be a normal civilian. Our country is important. Let's have order in our country. Let us give ourselves opportunity to work as a country and as a team. You know, Willis, we are not going to get police from Sweden to come and run our country. It's ours. And we are saying when the policeman is wrong, we must say it's wrong. When something is not working, we must say it is not working. I agree. But what we are just asking, yes, let's assume the policemen are rogue, the government is bad, but we as civilians, can we just show some order in ourselves first? If we are saying these people are rogue, do we also become rogue? Okay. Do we also just come to town, we don't know the organizer? Who do you even call when there is a problem?
Okay.
Are you getting me? And sometimes you just see things happen peripherally. My plea, Willis, is let us talk for the police. Let us ensure that police has a good welfare, the police are taken care of. He just talked about issues of mental illness and so on.
Yeah.
Even just going to a scene of accident alone, where people have died
is mental.
Ordinarily, is mental. The scene of accident alone is mental. Okay. Policemen are collecting bodies from rivers, collecting bodies from accident scenes, collecting people who have committed suicide. Mutu amerot, 3 weeks ako kwa bush una collect. So I'm just sympathizing. I'm saying surely when we come here, let us be fair.
Okay.
Where policemen are wrong, it's good we discuss.
Okay.
But surely just demonizing police as if you come from the moon, no, it's unfortunate.
Okay. Let's bring up the feedback. A lot of feedback is coming through. Then I'll give you each a chance, just 2 minutes each for closing remarks because we're running out of time. Let's bring up the feedback and see what you're saying. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. MC Rumors says the only real police reform we've seen was changing the name from police force to police service, and even that was mostly symbolic. Many officers still operate with a colonial mentality, viewing citizens as the enemy rather than the people they are meant to protect. They routinely violate human rights and behave as though they are above the law. Okay? Lekishon says police reforms in Kenya are a lie. We keep telling ourselves. Instead of serving the people, the police now serve power, even partnering with goons to crush dissent. This week's events have exposed just how broken and dangerous the system still is, and their latest move, blatant lies to cover it all up. Boaz Keino says Willis' proposal about community committee to oversee police stations is a brilliant idea that will clearly give the constitution a breath of life. Sawe says Kenya's police reforms keep missing the mark. Throwing money at new uniforms and PR campaigns won't fix deep-rooted problems. What we truly need is, number 1, independent civilian oversight. Number 2, better remuneration and incentives. Number 3, real accountability for police abuses. Reform isn't about optics. It's about justice. Okay? Gaga says the only real police reform we've seen is a change of uniform. Nothing more. The mindset, the brutality, and the impunity remain the same. Okay. Frank Orinde says police reforms in Kenya remain a broken promise when those tasked with fixing the system are the same ones benefiting from its dysfunction. Progress becomes impossible. We don't need reforms driven by politics. We need reforms rooted in integrity. Okay. Lekishon again says the real obstacle to meaningful police reform is political interference. We must end the political appointments of police bosses and completely overhaul police training. Reform will only happen when professionalism replaces politics in our security sector. Okay, closing remarks. 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah.
Been a pleasure being here, and I'm excited at the comments that we have all gone through.
Yeah.
My closing remarks will be simple. Even if you were to put the entire police establishment on the left and Kenyans on the right, Kenyans would outnumber these policemen. The best that the government should do now is to be genuine in reforming it in the aspects we have brought out to you today with clarity, psychosocial stability, housing, these affordable housings. I wish a lot of focus targeted also these policemen so that their dignity is embraced. But I think government must be deliberate that they will not use them for short time gains, for short sight gains, where they use them to crash on opponents, because governments come and go. There was a government, there will be a government, there is a government. But ultimately, police are amongst us, they're part of us. A number of them are good, but all I'm insisting on is government must be genuine to reform them, and those who are rogue be left to face the law.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen movement from IPOA that makes you feel like there's an oversight that works? I
am bothered with IPOA, completely bothered. I attempted to join them the other day. Charles knows, and he's the one who was encouraging me to even make the attempt. You see, when you have 100%, 90% of the IPOA investigators have come from police. 90%. Only 10 are civilians. 90 have come from police. Even today, the director of investigations in the same IPOA is another Lagat who came from police, who, I think, bomb or ballistics. A formation or a unit that was once headed by this gallant complainant who has caused her death. So for me, and it was completely immoral to see the chair of IPOA on the same podium with the policeman he's supposed to be oversighting, visiting a scene of crime with them. That killed the little trust that was available to Kenyans. So am I expecting too much from the investigations? No. Will Kenyans push pressure? Yes. Is Mr. Lagat suitable to continue in office? No.
Okay. Willis?
One thing I must say, and I call out my friend Charles, when Kenyans are agitating for their rights in the Constitution, that is not the opportunity for the police to also start shouting to our heads about their own welfare. They can choose their own time and agitate for their welfare. So that we should not reduce our agitation for fundamental rights and good governance, that now, because as we are doing this, remember police are also suffering. If they were suffering, where were they before Kenyans started speaking? Because nothing stops them internally for also agitating for their welfare. But they should not use an opportunity when other people are agitating for good governance and say, as you talk good governance, also remember police. Where were you? Why were you quiet? Because then now you use that opportunity as an excuse to brutalize and attack Kenyans. Charles says that we cannot apologize. Yes, you cannot apologize today. But I assure all these police commanders, there is no limitation of action in criminal law. And we are keeping records, we are keeping receipts. We will come for you even when you've retired. We will drag you from your home even at age 80 to try you for the atrocities that you are committing against the people of Kenya today. You may have the watches, but we have the time. And that time will follow you even post your service as a police officer. And
IPOA has now summoned DIG Eliud Lagat. In fact, he's supposed to be there today. Are you convinced that IPOA is heading in the right direction?
I will only be convinced that IPOA is heading in the right direction the moment I see an IPOA application similar to the one that was made in the case of OCS Talam, that we want to hold DIG Lagat for 30 days pending conclusion of investigations. It cannot be that for Talam, for Mukwana, they are doing the investigations with these two in police custody, while Lagat, they're doing the investigations when he's still out there. Superintending, again, exercising command responsibility still over the same officers, over the scene of crime, officers in charge of that scene of crime. Lagat should have been the first person.
But he has stepped aside.
No. But he stepped aside, but he still enjoys command responsibility over all those ranks that are in charge of investigations, in charge of the scene of crime. So he's the first person who should have been, even before Talam, before Mukwana, the first person who ought to have been committed to custodial orders was DIG Lagat. I expect IPOA to make an application to court today to hold Talam for 30 days pending investigations.
Okay. Gloria?
Kenyans cannot advocate for the police rights if they are not being treated well by the police themselves. I believe it has come to a time that we need to call a spade, and until they do so is when the people will be backing them and they will be backing their reforms. Secondly, the recommendations from task force after task force after task force. It keeps on saying they have to improve the welfare of the police, especially when it comes to pay, when it comes to housing, and things like that. I think it's now about time. We cannot be having another task force formed after this. It will only come with the same results. So I think those recommendations that have already been given, I think we need to start seeing the implementation of that, because we cannot expect people who have been indignified to treat us also with dignity. That is what we have been seeing all over, and that's what we are complaining about. So I think with that, we need to look into that. And finally, the buck stops with the IG in this. I think it's about time that he now looks for his people and also for the police now to be acting right. I think if his greatest legacy will be that if he looks at the welfare of the police and also if they are treated well, I think now we might start seeing a change in how they act.
Yeah, but where's the space for individual responsibility, like what Charles was saying? Because now we know that the two police officers, Constable Baraza Masinde, the Constable Duncan Kiprona, have been arrested.
Yes.
After having committed that crime, and the investigations are ongoing. Are Kenyans being unfair by that blanket condemnation and not leaving space for individual responsibility? In as much as, yes, it's a police service, but there are those who are being taken action against.
Yes. And we do acknowledge for the part that they are taking individual responsibility and actually calling them out. However, I don't think there's transparency in all of it totally, because even when the statement was being issued, we weren't told who, we weren't told where they're being held. And it happened with all other people who had been arrested before, like for Talam and also for Mukwana. We saw that, but for them, they are still holding on to information. So I think there's still a long way to go when it comes to accountability in that area.
So having the Independent Policing Oversight Authority does not help in any way?
That's a totally different thing, because if I was asked my personal opinion, I think IPOA needs to pull up its socks and actually work harder. I personally think Internal Affairs does a better job than IPOA. And the IPOA actually complains, oh, we don't have resources and all, but even with the resources they have, what have they done to completion? It's actually lacking, and I think IPOA needs to step up. Seeing, as he said, seeing the chair of IPOA doing a press statement with the police, I mean, it looks compromised from the word go. So I think IPOA needs to step up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Charles?
Thank you, Trevor, for this morning. What I can say is that rights come with limitations, moral obligations, and responsibilities. So as we enjoy our rights and fundamental freedoms, we ought not to prejudice the rights and freedoms of others. And I'm still maintaining, Willis, that the police have a responsibility to maintain law and order of the country. There's no space for anarchy. And if somebody thinks that, you know, we have a vibrant constitution and we'll have elections in another year or so. And I can say that if somebody thinks that he wants to cause anarchy as a way to remove those who are in offices, then you just rather become a gorilla and you face the military. The police are social undertakers. The police work for the social well-being of the society every day, protecting ourselves. You know the history of state, when individuals had now to give up their responsibilities to ensure that there is law and order. At least there's somebody who can, you can complain to, and you have a court that you can be taken to, and such balances that are required. So what I can say is that please, as a country, this is our country, we are not going to get another country. We are also not going to get another police service. And Willis, don't be pained at the police welfare. We were talking about police reforms. And you cannot talk about police reforms without looking at the welfare of the police. And I pray that maybe you get more children and one of them becomes an inspector general, and you will still not be very old, and you guide him to run this country well. Otherwise, what I can say is that as a team, we need to work together. It is not wrong to point at where policemen have made mistakes. It is not wrong for actions not to be taken. And okay, IPOA must work with police, because even at the end of the day, when they make recommendations and it goes to DPP and a decision is made that somebody be prosecuted, they'll still write back to IG to have this person arrested and be taken to court. There is no way it will be done by any other person. Equally, this is a civilian oversight. The fact that the chairman of IPOA makes a press conference with the police, what happened is the IG has a right to transfer cases to IPOA. And in their boardroom meeting, as they discuss some of these issues, because he's the IG, he was not involved in commission of the offense. When they finish their meeting and they decide to give a press conference saying that we have made this decision, IPOA is going to do this, it's not compromising, because most investigations are based on facts. You cannot just pick issues without facts. And even when you want Lagat to go, let it be honest. Let it not be because he's a Kalenjin. Let it be honest that there's an offense committed, there's evidence, and therefore let him go. No, I know our, excuse me, I know our mentality about others. So what I'm saying is simple. Let us not be persons that are vindictive. We are vindictive against others. If he has committed an offense, let him be charged. Let him not even step aside or be interdicted. Let him be charged. Okay. And that cannot be acceptable.
All right.
So what I'm saying is, as a country,
Yeah.
let's work as brothers and sisters.
All right.
Let us not have unnecessary boundaries.
Okay.
And most so importantly, Okeyo, for today, thank you for supporting the police welfare in this debate. And I humbly request my brother Willis, I know he has very good relations with very many police officers. Don't be too hard on police in general. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you a quick chance of response.
Why do you want
Thank you, Trevor. All I am saying is I have no personal dislike for Mr. Lagat. The only issue I brought is responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, we have a Chief Justice who was removed from office for just touching the nose of a security guard who attempted to search her, and she left office. Then you have a Deputy Inspector General of Police who complains on a tweet that is anonymous, who no one has seen, and someone loses a life. He has no business being in office. And finally, Charles Owino is no longer the police spokesman. When you host him here, host him as a person from what he is in now. National, I don't know what.
National
because police have my friend Mushiri Nyaga as the spokesman. Let Charles not.
I have no.
Do not allow Charles. I'm finishing. Do not allow Charles, the audience for populist police activism.
Okay.
The spokesman.
But remind Okeyo, remind Okeyo that I have no boundary. Just the same way he talks about police welfare, he cannot gag me from supporting
the police.
A unit that has been
Trevor, all I just say.
Yes. And Okeyo, for your information.
I have no problem.
It's Willis now.
I have no problem with the file of the police.
Yeah.
My main problem is with the command structures of the police.
Okay.
And my call to the rank and file, don't allow yourself to be misused by these commanders.
All right. Thank you for making time. Charles Owino, former police spokesperson, head National Communications Center. Eric Okeyo, former chairperson, Kenya Security Industry Association, and former vice chair, Security Regulatory Authority. Willis Otieno, lawyer and deputy party leader, Safina, and Gloria Kimani, council member, LSK. Thank you all for making time this morning, and thank you all for the feedback that you sent through. Coming up next is Cooking Tips. Bye for now.